Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. But on their hands, they're hellbound. Sing a song. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Sing a song before they burn it down. So here's the Alan West version, Watchtower Firearms, a BDR-X. You can see it has the Steadfast and Loyal podcast logo on it. And on this side, you've got, my actual digitized signature and my Army Master Parachutist wings. And of course, you got to have the American flag. And again, this is such an incredibly light weapon. I just can't believe it. And I like the skeletized design. And this flash suppressor here is unique. They make it here at Watchtower, and it actually reduces the rise of the weapon when you fire it. So I'm just looking forward, and Magpul hard sights, and I think I'll keep hard sights on this, but I'm looking forward to taking it out here and shooting it and zeroing it in. And I love the skeletized hand grip here. And of course you got the extendable butt stop, and I prefer this forward hand grip, more than anything else. I really like this. So here it is, right up there next with Rob O'Neill. It's hard to believe that, but that's why America's such a great country, where a kid born in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, can have an AR-15 designed by him and with his signature on it, limited edition. So check out their website, watchtowerfirearms.com. And if you want, you can purchase one of these. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast. And those of you know, I live in Garland, Texas. And one of the things that you would have never thought about Garland, Texas, is kind of like the cowboy hat, basically the hat capital of the world in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I had the great opportunity of meeting a fantastic fellow by the name of Scott Starnes. Scott is the executive vice president at Dorfman Milano in Garland, Texas, maybe 5 minutes from my house. And I just thought that in this Christmas holiday season, it would be a great opportunity to talk to him about what could be a nice gift for mommy or daddy or grandpa or grandma coming up. Doesn't have to be in this season. It can be any time of the year. Scott embarked on his professional journey after earning a degree in economics from the University of Maryland. His dedication and outstanding performance were quickly recognized, earning him Salesman of the Year honors 5 times. He was promoted to the position of Vice President of Sales at Hatco, and following his distinguished career at Hatco, he began a new chapter of professional success at Dorfman Milano. He was handpicked to lead the Western Headwear Brands division of the company, which, as I said, is headquartered in Garland, Texas. Scott has a 20-year tenure at Dorfman Milano, and he continues to exemplify his commitment to excellence. And when you talk about a commitment to excellence, we're talking about the production and distribution of some iconic hat brands like Larry Mahan, Justin, and Biltmore. And I happen to own a very nice Larry Mahan hat that I got from Dorfman Milano. And his dedication to the artistry and craftsmanship of hat making. I had the opportunity to visit them on the floor there. But right now I want to say Merry Christmas. Welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal podcast, Scott.
Hey, Colonel, thanks for having me. That was quite an introduction. I'm humbled by it.
Oh, and you earned it. You absolutely earned it. And we see some of that nice product sitting there right behind you.
Oh yeah, we have quite a few hats in here. I'm most comfortable when I'm around the hats, considering it's the only thing I've done since graduating from college.
Well, let's
So
talk about that.
yeah,
How was it that you got, I mean, you're up in the University of Maryland getting a degree in economics. What got you interested in the hat industry?
that's a great question. I'm going to try to give you a short answer. It's not going to start off sounding like a short answer, but the reality is my older brother went to Princeton University, played
Hmm.
football and baseball there.
Okay.
He fell in love with a young lady who was on the softball team there, whose father happened to be in the baseball cap business in Richmond, Virginia, had a
Uh-huh.
factory down there. He was making caps for little league teams and so forth, and got the bright idea to approach Pete Rozelle, who was then the NFL
Hmm.
commissioner, and worked a deal with the NFL to get a licensing agreement with them to put football team logos on baseball caps. And he was the very first NFL license in headwear. He parlayed that into being a captain of the headwear industry. He then went on to acquire what is now Hatco down here in Garland. He merged Stetson Hat Company from Missouri to in with Resistol and created that
Hmm.
Hatco company. And saw enough in this kid up at University of Maryland to give him a traveling hat salesman's territory in the Carolinas. And he asked me a great question. He said, "Hey, Sport," he called me Sport. He said, "Sport, what are you going to do with that economics degree once you get out of here?" I didn't have a good answer for him. And he said, "I'm going to give you a better education. It's on the road." So I have my brother to thank for that, and then Mr. Irving Joel, who's an icon in this industry. And if you talk to people who've been in the hat business for many many years, everyone knows the name Irving Joel, who was really a pioneer and gave me my start,
Yeah.
and the rest is history.
Now,
So
how is it that Garland, Texas, I mean, people see all the warehouses there and, all of the major truck distribution centers there in our home city. How is it that Garland, Texas became the center of, the hat capital, the cowboy hat capital, really of the world? You explained that to me once.
yeah, so centrally located, which is ideal for shipping West Coast, East Coast, was probably the original idea that Mr. Beyer and Mr. Rolnick back in 1927 had when they founded what was then called Beyer Rolnick. Today it's known as Hatco, which is our neighbors right up the street here
Hmm.
who gave me the start. They blended a lot of companies together that were originally from Connecticut, which at the time was the hat capital of the world. Now, not Western hats, but dress hats.
Hmm.
And of course, Western hats originated from John B. Stetson, who migrated from Philadelphia to St. Joe, Missouri for health reasons. And that's really where the cowboy hat capital started, was in St. Joe, Missouri, thanks to Mr. Stetson back in 1865. And so um, when Mr. Joel merged Beyer Rolnick with Stetson and created Hatco, that really became the epicenter of Garland, Texas, the hat capital of the world being in
Hmm.
Garland, Texas. And so Mr. John Milano, Dorfman Milano, we'll get
Hmm.
to that, immigrated from Italy back after World War II, didn't speak the language, a true rags to riches story, was given a presidential Alger Hiss Award for, excuse me, Horatio Alger, get it right,
Yeah.
award for immigrating to the United States, legally, I might add, and not knowing the language, started out selling hats, much like I did on the road, and became president of Resistol Hat Company right here in Garland, Texas. Levi Strauss then bought Hatco,
Hmm.
Resistol, whisked away Mr. Milano, who then started his own hat company called the Milano Hat Company here in Garland, 2 miles from Hatco. And so that's why they're here. Those are the big players at the time and still are today. And so other hat companies decided, well, uh, Garland must be the spot because these are two very successful headwear companies. And
Yeah.
so other companies now have come and moved their businesses here to Garland, Texas. And there you go. You live in the
I
hat
know.
capital of the world. We'll say cowboy hat capital. That's not disputed, but I say hat capital of the world. There's
There you
no
go.
there's no there's no other place on the planet that has so many centrally located headwear manufacturers. There's not a thing you and I are wearing right now that was probably made in this country. And so the best hats in the world are made in the United States, and right here in Garland, Texas. Now
Well,
I can't get the mayor of Garland to put that on the city limit signs or
oh, you
change
kidding
the
me?
welcome. I've met with him several times, and I said, you should be known for something. I mean, we've got Motown, we've got Nashville's Music City. I mean, Wisconsin's got cheese, Detroit's Motor City. I mean, you know, let's, other than just be a bunch of buildings all in a row,
Yeah.
let's be known for something and proclaim ourselves the hat capital of the world. But we're working on that.
Well, good. And anything that I can do, hey, Mr. Mayor, you can be expecting a phone call from the old colonel too. Let's talk about the intricacies because you explained some incredible things to me. Because I remember someone seeing a hat of mine, and I explained to them the number of X's that are there in the hat. Talk to us about how you rate a hat and the material that goes into the hats, and how you get those X's. What does that mean?
That is a very good question, and you'd be surprised how many people who actually work in stores that sell that product also don't know the answer to that question.
Wow.
And the X's were started by the Stetson Hat Company many, many years ago, and all it was a relative quality marking inside their product alone. There's no industry or even government standard for what those X's mean. And so, in the simplest way that I can explain it, a 6X quality fur felt hat has better fur in it, better, higher quality fur, more rare fur than, say, one that has 4X's in it. And so, the higher the X's, the better quality the fur is. And that's really all it is. And the other thing is that people make the mistake of thinking there is a standard for that. And so a Larry Mahan 6X quality hat may be 5 times nicer than, say, another company's 100X hat.
Hmm.
They could, today I could invent a million X hat, Colonel, and put it out there on the market. It just doesn't really mean anything other than the higher the X within that brand, the better quality fur that's in the hat.
What is the highest X rated hat that you have for Larry Mahan or Justin?
So Larry Mahan, that is our premium brand
Yeah.
here. We have a legit 1000X hat. And that is 100% beaver fur. Now, the reason why we use fur is that there's a lot of fur in Europe as a part of the diet over there. Is why we here in the United States have a lot of leather for boots,
Hmm.
shoes, handbags, and belts. We eat a lot of beef cattle, and so the fur comes from Europe. And in the 1000X hat, it is pure beaver fur, which cannot be farmed raised for food. They're still trapped in the wild. And so it's widely considered the finest fur that you can make a hat of because of its durability, its ability to hold up to weather. Beavers live in the water.
Yeah.
And so it's got a couple of other exotic furs in it as well, but it's a 1000X hat that would retail for about $4,000 at a store.
You
And
know,
by the way, interesting fact,
yeah.
we can't make enough of them to keep up with the number of people that want one, and so we turn a lot of folks away. We can only make so many a year,
Wow.
and amazing, yeah.
Now, I was recently down in Ponte Vedra, Florida, just south of Jacksonville, and they had a veterans charity gala, and I was the MC for it. And they wanted to have a Western theme. So, of course, I show up with my nice Larry Mahan black hat that you made for me there. And it was so funny because there was a gentleman at the event that had a straw hat on. And I had to pull him to the side and say, hey, man, it's December. You're not supposed to, be walking around with a straw hat. Tell us some of the little tidbits out there because a lot of people don't understand there's a season for wearing the fur hats as opposed to the straw hats. And then do you have the same type of X rating for the straw hats as well?
I'll answer the second question first. Yes, there are similar X markings in straw hats, and again, the same rules apply. And so a 20X straw, and with straw, it's not necessarily the quality of the raw material that's in the hat. With straw hats, it is determined by the width of the straw. Each individual straw hat is woven by hand, one piece of straw in and out of the other. And the thinner that straw gets, the longer it takes to hand weave.
Hmm.
And so it's a relative function of the amount of labor that went into weaving one hat body. And so thicker straw pieces take less time, cost less, lower X quality marking. Thinner pieces of straw take much longer. There are some straw hats that can take up to a month to
Wow.
weave by hand because the fiber is so thin that when it's fully woven and tightly woven, it almost looks like one piece of material versus 1,000 individual pieces of straw. And so That's the answer there. Back to your question about timing. Yes, it's like wearing, white shoes in December. You don't do that. And the lines are kind of blurred now with Yellowstone and the impact that that's had on what we'll call new customers into cowboy hats who don't
Yeah.
really abide by the traditions of head wearing. And so you take that straw off around Labor Day and put that felt hat on. And likewise around Easter, it used to be May 1st was the traditional straw hat day. But you live in Texas like I do, and if you
Mhm.
wait all the way to May and you got that black felt hat on,
You're sweating.
it could be tough. So
Yeah.
we tend to say Easter would be the appropriate time to
Yeah.
switch over to the straw hat. Yeah.
Now, you just brought up a point where talking about supply and demand, which, being having a degree in economics, you understand. What are the challenges that you're seeing right now in the hat industry? Like you said, you got people that are, trying to get your product, and I can just imagine the popularity of Yellowstone and some of these other programs out there, what it's meaning for the hat industry. What are the challenges that you're seeing right now in this economic environment?
Yeah. So I think, unlike other businesses, we have really benefited from the popularity of television shows like Yellowstone 1923 and
Hmm.
whatever else Sheridan has coming down in the pipeline. And so right now we are in a spike in this business. And if you've been in the Western hat business long enough, you'll know that there was Urban Cowboy,
Yeah.
and then there was Garth Brooks, and then there was 9/11, and everybody became a very jingoistic and Western, and Toby Keith, and he was going to put a boot in your ass, but he's wearing a hat on his head. All of these things, and so it really is somewhat cyclical. And so here we are in another we're in another peak pattern here in terms of Western headwear. And what will happen, Colonel, is once that doctor, insurance salesman, attorney, school teacher who bought his one cowboy hat or her one cowboy hat, that dude isn't going out and getting another one anytime soon. And so he's done. And so it's been very difficult because the raw material is the same, whether it's somebody who's into that Western lifestyle or somebody buying their first hat.
Hmm.
There's only so much of the raw material, the hand weaving of the straw hats, the production of fur in Europe or wool from South America. It is a finite number of people that are turning this raw material into hat bodies that we use to sell. And so it's really put pressure on us because while we should be having record sales, and our sales are very good right now, as a salesperson and an economist, I think of what the opportunity could have been. Could we meet the demand? And so with the inflation just affecting every aspect of our business, raw materials,
Hmm.
utilities,
Hmm.
labor, equipment, finance charges. The only way to cover these costs is massive cost increase for us. We're a small business, we're
Yeah.
self-capitalist. We unfortunately we have to pass those costs along. And so what happens? Our retailers have to do the same thing. And so folks are out there now faced with a decision. This hat was $200 last week, and now it's $275, and they're either paying that, or in most cases they're not paying it. And in times like this, as a business, any business, you have to make decisions. You have to cut costs if sales are going to decline, and they are starting to level off, and will probably decrease as we go into 2024. And so for us, the other option is, you're cutting costs where you can, or you're looking for new suppliers, which slows down the supply chain, or unfortunately, you're faced with reducing the workforce.
Yeah.
For us, we have very skilled labor. We don't just put a sign out front and somebody comes in and starts making a cowboy hat that same day. And so we have to be very competitively priced when it comes to paying our people. But I know there's lots of layoffs going on. I would say here, a lot of companies are now implementing layoffs as a strategy for cutting costs. I know in the tech sector, there's been probably 250 million people laid off in the last 6 months, and
Hmm.
so we really don't have that luxury. So we have to pass these costs along. And I would just say this to answer your question, Colonel. I think it's going to really seriously impact our ability to equalize the sales of the past 2 years going forward, unless something happens in terms of interest rates. again,
Yeah.
we capitalize ourselves, and when cash flow doesn't allow it, we have a credit card just like every American consumer does, and
Hmm.
we're putting a lot of that. We have to finance the business that way, and when we were paying 2 and 3% interest on raw material, products,
Hmm.
machinery, people, even utilities, and now we're paying 7 and 8%. We're paying millions more in finance charges to keep this business going, and so that's why people are paying more, Alan. I mean, these costs a business has a certain margin that it has to hit, right, in order to
Yes.
keep it open. We employ 200 people here working in the United States, making stuff with their two hands, and we want to keep doing that. But unfortunately, the end consumer is going to pay the price, and that's what's happening out there. So
Yeah.
long-winded.
No, but it's a
Yeah.
good thing to talk to people about because we all want made in America. But when you have economic policies that are preventing made in America, because who wants to have a cowboy hat that says made in China or made in wherever? I mean, there's an authenticity to what you're doing. And I think it's so important that when folks hear about, okay, this guy named Jerome Powell, that seems that he is eons away from you, but his decisions are affecting you in such a way that here in Garland, Texas, when you go to the boot barn or somewhere and you're looking at buying this hat and you just said, it was $200. Now it's $275. Why is it? Well, because the guy by the name of Jerome Powell is raising these interest rates on people that can go out and borrow. And so, therefore, those costs get passed on. So it really is a good everyday economics lesson for people to realize how these quote unquote faraway people are making these decisions that do impact them right in their backyard. And our backyard is the hat capital of the world, Garland, Texas.
Absolutely, well said. And the wealthiest people in this country, they don't it doesn't affect them nearly as much as our core consumer does,
Yeah.
who's an average Joe. Some of them live in rural areas. Some of them have jobs that they're not making it $100,000 a year, but as part of their lifestyle, they have to wear a Western hat. And so when we talk like this about the very consumer for the Western hat, I don't think these guys think about stuff like that because it really doesn't affect them, much. And so average Americans are really taking on the chin out here.
Yeah.
And you can play with the facts and play with the numbers. You can even lie about what's going on out here, but we see it now every single day. People are suffering.
What are your most popular brands or style of hat out there that you're seeing right now?
So I would say it is still the traditional Western hat. So if you're watching Yellowstone and you see what John Dutton is wearing on his head, aka Kevin Costner, that's what's going on right now in terms of that. The brims, I will tell you, are getting wider.
Really?
Yeah. So not ridiculously wide, but traditionally it was a 4-inch brim
Uh-huh.
on a Western hat, and now it's 4.5, and in some cases 5 inches. So wider is cooler, uh, and so that's what we're seeing. Black is still the number one color
Okay.
out there, and for women, it's really what was going on the last 2 years was sort of a tapered front with a extremely flat brim, and that was women's Western fashion. And now we're starting to see women buy traditional Western hats as well. More like what you would think of a man wearing.
Yeah.
That's becoming fashionable for the ladies, and so yeah. Um, the old standard is still
Mhm.
what people want.
Now, are people still purchasing a lot of the straw hats? Because, like you said, here in Texas and a lot of the Southwest, you do have those hot months.
Absolutely. We probably sell as many straw hats as we do felt
Okay.
hats. The thing about straw hats is because of the nature of how the hat bodies are woven, there's no machines that can do it.
Yeah.
And it's an art form, and it's generational. And in these places in Asia or in Central and South America that are doing that, the next generation does not want to learn how to weave straw hats. They want to put microchips into iPads, and so there's becoming less and less of that sort of raw material. So maybe not in our lifetime, but at some point, straw hats is going to be, a thing of the past.
Wow.
I do believe.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I'm
Unless
gonna.
somebody, invests in a straw hat weaving machine, but I don't think the ROI is going to be there for something like that.
That's incredible. Now, my oldest grandson will be turning 3 next May. Uh, what's the youngest age for purchasing a hat for kids?
Our CEO just had a baby who is a year old, and she has a very sweet Larry Mahan hat. Uh,
Wow. And she keeps it on?
hey, hang on just one second.
Okay.
Uh, you got a grandkid, right?
Yeah.
How about that? That is the world's smallest baseball cap with
I'll
our
be
logo on the front right there.
I'll
So
be doggone.
we are creating future customers every day, Colonel. And so we don't care how old they are. We do have a kids collection of headwear, and I would say, all kidding aside, 4 or 5 years old, we can fit them up.
Okay, because
The interesting thing about children is
yeah,
uh, at birth, the size of a head, it doesn't grow just tremendously after about year 2 or 3. I think my son was born with a 7 5/8 head size. He's a very smart. He's a very smart young man. That's what we say. So yeah. So we start him early.
okay. So we're going through this holiday season. What would you say as far as people staying interested in the hat industry and coming by and seeing you there in Garland?
Yeah, I would say that if somebody would like to set up a tour or what have you, and see how hats are made. Before COVID, we were doing that a lot, and then of course that shut everything down, and we're slowly starting to have visitors back in. You were an exception, of course, just because
Yeah.
you're a neighbor of just because you're a neighbor of ours. And I would say that yeah, just call the front desk and say, hey, I'm in town, and would it be okay if I, come by, and we'd set up a tour for something like that. Starting in 2024, I think we're going to get back to getting those uh, out there, scheduled for people to come in and take a look at the factory and everything.
Well, how can people follow you? How can people, come and check you out? And can people actually come in and set up an appointment to, get
It
measured and
depends.
get,
We're really trying to limit the personal visits,
yeah.
but just because there's liability, these
Oh,
attorneys.
I know. I know. I know that class of people that, oh, they got
Yeah.
the big billboards for a reason.
Yeah, anybody can learn all about the company. It's real simple. It's dorfmanmilano.com is the website. And if you're interested in purchasing a hat, I would say there are 3 places. There's bootbarn.com, there
Yep.
is cavenders.com, another great spot.
Hmm.
There's also 10th Street Hats on Amazon. And so those are the 3 places that I would send customers if they're looking for a
Yeah.
gift. I better hurry up though. I
Better
mean,
hurry up.
somebody told me Christmas was less than a week away.
I think so. It's like, yeah. You know what's so interesting to me, Scott, is that when you think of top rated boots, you think Lucchese. And then when you think of top rated hats, Milano. Boy, the Italians, man, they know how to do it. They just know how to do it.
Yeah, well, it's like Tim Cook said, CEO at Apple. He's like, figure out what you do good
Yeah.
and say no to everything else. And that was Mr. Milano's philosophy. Make the best hat, forget everything else, and you will have customers for life. And that's the endearing spirit that we carry on to this day. And we're very proud of the fact that we're still here and being good shepherds of Mr. Milano's business.
Well, God bless you. And I will be coming to see you pretty soon about little Jackson Bernard getting his first cowboy hat. And I look
We will.
forward to you sizing him up and fitting him. And I just thank you for who you are and what you're doing. And like you say, I'm honored to be a neighbor to Dorfman Milano there in the cowboy hat capital, the hat capital of the world, and that's Garland, Texas. God bless you and a Merry Christmas, Scott.
God bless you too, Colonel. Thanks for having me. It was an honor.
And ladies and gentlemen, just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to watch this podcast interview. If you enjoyed this interview with Scott Starnes there and Dorfman Milano, please click the like button and share it with others. And until next time, remain steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.